Okay, this video is slightly different. This video is a pad performance by me of a speech that Malcolm X made in April 1964, which became known as the Ballot or the Bullet speech. Now, I tried really hard, but the budget wouldn't stretch to getting Denzel Washington here to play Malcolm X, and I did try to make up, but it just looked ridiculous with me blacked up, so you will have to imagine that I am Malcolm X. Although I'm still a Muslim, I'm not here tonight to discuss my religion. I'm not here to try and change your religion. I'm not here to argue or discuss anything that we differ about, because it's time for us to submerge our differences and realise that it's best for us to first see that we have the same problem, a common problem, a problem that will make you catch hell, whether you're a Baptist or a Methodist or a Muslim or a nationalist, whether you're educated or illiterate, whether you live on the boulevard or in the alley, you're going to catch hell just like I am. We're all in the same boat, and we all are going to catch the same hell from the same man. He just happens to be a white man. All of us have suffered here in this country political oppression at the hands of the white man, economic exploitation at the hands of the white man, and social degradation at the hands of the white man. Now, speaking like this, it doesn't mean that we're anti-white, but it does mean we're anti-exploitation, we're anti-degradation, we're anti-oppression. And if the white man doesn't want us to be anti-him, let him stop oppressing and exploiting and degrading us. Whether we're Christians or Muslims or nationalists or agnostics or atheists, we must first learn to forget our differences. If we have differences, let us differ in the closet. When we come out in front, let us not have anything to argue about until we get finished arguing with the man. If the late President Kennedy could get together with Khrushchev and exchange some wheat, we certainly had more in common with each other than Kennedy and Khrushchev had with each other. If we don't do something real soon, I think you'll have to agree that we're going to be forced either to use the ballot or the bullet. It's one or the other in 1964. It isn't that time is running out, time has run out. 1964 threatens to be the most explosive year America has ever witnessed. The most explosive year. Why? It's also a political year. It's the year when all of the white politicians will be back in the so-called Negro community driving you and me for some votes. The year when all of the white political crooks will be right back in your and my community with their false promises, which they don't intend to keep. As they nourish these dissatisfactions, it can only lead to one thing, an explosion. And now we have the type of black man on the scene in America today who just doesn't intend to turn the other cheek any longer. Don't let anybody tell you anything about the odds are against you. If they draft you, they send you to Korea and make you face 800 million Chinese. If you can be brave over there, you can be brave right here. These odds aren't as great as those odds, and if you fight here, you'll at least know what you're fighting for. I'm not a politician, not even a student of politics. In fact, I'm not a student of much of anything. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, and I don't even consider myself an American. If you and I were Americans, there'd be no problem. Those honkies that just got off the boat, they're already Americans. Polacks are already Americans. The Italian refugees are already Americans. Everything that came out of Europe, every blue-eyed thing, is already an American. And as long as you and I have been over here, we aren't Americans yet. Well, I'm one who doesn't believe in deluding myself. I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat with nothing on my plate and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner, unless you eat some of what's on that plate. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here in America doesn't make you an American. Well, if birth made you an American, you wouldn't need any legislation. You wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution. You wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibustering in Washington, D.C. right now. They don't have to pass civil rights legislation to make a Polak an American. No, I'm not an American. I'm one of the 22 million black people who are the victims of Americanism. One of the 22 million black people who are the victims of democracy. Nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you as an American or a patriot or a flag saluter or a flag waver. No, not I. I'm speaking as a victim of this American system. and I see America through the eyes of the victim. I don't see any American dream, I see an American nightmare. These 22 million victims are waking up. Their eyes are coming open. They're beginning to see what they used to only look at. They're becoming politically mature. They're realising that there are new political trends from coast to coast. As they see these new political trends, it's possible for them to see that every time there's an election, the races are so close that they have to have a recount. They had to recount in Massachusetts to see who was going to be governor. It was so close. It was the same way in Rhode Island, in Minnesota, and in many other parts of the country. And the same with Kennedy and Nixon when they ran for president. It was so close they had to count all over again. What does that mean? It means that when white people are evenly divided and black people have a block of votes of their own, it's left up to them to determine who's going to sit in the White House and who's going to be in the doghouse. It was the black man's vote that put the present administration in Washington, D.C. Your vote, your dumb vote, your ignorant vote, your wasted vote put in an administration in Washington, D.C. that's seen fit to pass every kind of legislation imaginable, saving you until last, and filibustering on top of that. And your and my leaders have the audacity to run around clapping their hands and talk about how much progress we're making and what a good president we have. If he wasn't good in Texas, he sure can't be good in Washington, D.C., because Texas is a lynch state. It's in the same breath as Mississippi, no different. Only they lynch you in Texas with a Texas accent and lynch you in Mississippi with a Mississippi accent. And these Negro leaders have the audacity to go and have some coffee in the White House with a Texan, a southern cracker, that's all he is, and then come out and tell you and me that he's going to be better for us because since he's from the South, he knows how to deal with the Southerners. What kind of logic's that? Let Eastland be president, he's from the South too. He should be better able to deal with them than Johnson. So it's time in 1964 to wake up. And when you see them coming up with that kind of conspiracy, let them know your eyes are open and let them know you. Something else that's wide open too. It's got to be the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet. If you're afraid to use an expression like that, you should get on out of the country. You should get back in the cotton patch. You should get back in the alley. They get all the Negro vote, and after they get it, the Negro gets nothing in return. All they did when they got to Washington was give a few big Negroes big jobs. Those big Negroes didn't need big jobs. They already had jobs. That's camouflage, that's trickery, that's treachery, window dressing. I'm not trying to knock out the Democrats for the Republicans. We'll get to them in a minute. But it is true. You put the Democrats first, and the Democrats put you last. Look at it the way it is. What alibis do they use, since they control Congress and the Senate? What alibi do they use when you and I ask, well, when are you going to keep your promise? They blame the Dixiecrats. What's a Dixiecrat? A Dixiecrat's a Democrat. A Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. The titular head of the Democrats is also the head of the Dixiecrats, because the Dixiecrats are a part of the Democratic Party. The Democrats have never kicked the Dixiecrats out of the party. The Dixiecrats bolted themselves once, but the Democrats didn't put them out. Imagine these low-down Southern segregationists put the Northern Democrats down, but the Northern Democrats have never put the Dixiecrats down. Now look at that thing the way it is. They've got a con game going on, a political con game, and you and I are in the middle. It's time for you and me to wake up and start looking at it like it is, and trying to understand it like it is, and then we can deal with it like it is. I was in Washington a week ago Thursday when they were debating whether or not they should let the bill come onto the floor. And at the back of the room where the Senate meets, there's a huge map of the United States. And on that map it shows the location of Negroes throughout the country. And it shows that the southern section of the country, the states that are most heavily concentrated with Negroes, are the ones that have senators and congressmen standing up, filibustering and doing all other kinds of trickery to keep the Negro from being able to vote. This is pitiful. But it's not pitiful for us any longer. It's actually pitiful for the white man. Because soon, now, as the Negro awakens a little more and sees the vice that he's in, sees the bag that he's in, sees the real game that he's in, then the Negro is going to develop a new tactic. So what I'm trying to impress on you, in essence, is this. You and I in America are faced not with a segregationist conspiracy, we're faced with a government conspiracy. Everyone who's filibustering is a senator. That's the government. Everyone who's finagling in Washington, D.C. is a congressman. That's the government. You don't have anybody putting blocks in your path but people who are a part of the government. The same government that you go abroad to fight for and die for is the government that's in a conspiracy to deprive you of your voting rights, deprive you of your economic opportunities, deprive you of decent housing, deprive you of decent education. You don't need to go to the employer alone. It's the government itself, the government of America, that's responsible for the oppression and exploitation and degradation of black people in this country. And you should drop it in their lap. The government has failed the Negro. This so-called democracy has failed the Negro. And all these white liberals have definitely failed the Negro.